it's time to get serious about your content. So this is going to be sort of an eye-opener. Going to talk really seriously about content from a very high level, and really talk about strategy. And I think a big thing that we have been talking about throughout the day has been strategic thinking, and how we're going to be looking at Drupal, and how we're going to be looking at our websites, not just tomorrow, but a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. So, but first, what I wanted to do is sort of remind you what types of things you can already do with Drupal. Some things you can do with content. One thing you can definitely do, of course, everybody knows, is site pages. You can create basic site pages which will be a basic web page. If you're just putting things such as duties of the Office of the Attorney General, this is a good way to do it. And a lot of people use this. A lot of people overuse this. It is meant for just a basic content item, basic piece of content that doesn't have any real special functionality. So that's a site page. Really a very, very powerful content type that I think we tend to underuse in Drupal is the document content type. We all have documents that we need to publish on the web. And a lot of us use the related files that's part of the site page. But you can also have just a documents area on your website, and you can actually add metadata to these documents. It's sort of a document within a container. And that container can have metadata that will help people find the information quicker. As you see on here, on the right-hand side, you actually have the ability to filter documents by taxonomy. And so on this particular screen, we've got forms and publications. You can just click on forms and you can see all of your forms. You click on publications, you can see all the publications. Easy way just to get down to more into a granular level and have your users see exactly what they want to see. Also, the most viewed documents. That's a very important part of what your users are wanting to see. You want to try to get them to the most important tasks, the most popular things as quickly as possible, and that's another feature of the documents content type and having a documents area on your website. So don't underestimate the power of the document content type. Kendra mentioned a lot about locations, and I would really encourage you, even if you have just one or two sites around the state, to use the location content type. As Kendra said, it would be a great thing if everybody used location content types. We could aggregate this at the GeorgiaGov level, and not only could you see your location at your website, but if somebody came to GeorgiaGov looking for, the Georgia State Finance and Investment Commission, they would be able to find that through the location content type. And so this is a very powerful thing. As she mentioned, some of the things that you can do with it, hours of operation, areas served, and she also shows you exactly how you can filter down to get to those particular locations. And there's plenty coming down the pike in this area. Events. This is another thing that would be great if we could aggregate this at the state level. If you have a board meeting, if you have a public hearing, if you have any type of workshops that are going on, you can use the event content type. As you see on the left-hand side, that's what it looks like on the front page. You can actually have a block that shows what type of events are occurring. Only use this if you have a lot of events going on. I've seen some websites where the last event was in 2014, so you don't want to have that happen. Only if you have a lot of events going on and want people to actually keep track of it. On the right-hand side is the actual detail page, which gives the location and also shows you a map of what's going on. You can add, you can also attach files to it if there's an agenda that you want to actually show. You can do that as well. But one thing when I first got to GTA about 8 years ago was that the state was really pushing toward having what I think they called it the Georgia Registry at the time, where they wanted to aggregate all of the public meetings that were going on and have it on GeorgiaGov. Well, we just kind of shrugged our heads and said, we don't know what's going on at the state level. We have to call every single state agency every week and say, what meetings do you have going on? But again, if everybody started using this for their board meetings, this is something we could aggregate at the state level at Georgia.gov, and you could get more bang for your buck, more publicity for your actual meetings. Profiles. I see a lot of you all have board members up on your website. You've got leadership teams. You've got staff profiles. But a lot of you aren't really using the profile content type. And this is a good way to show exactly who's on your leadership team or on your board. And the sort of like an index page is on the left-hand side where you can actually you can alphabetize them. You can put them in really any kind of order you want. And then on the right-hand side is a detail page of what you can actually get when you click on the staff director. So it's, again, instead of using a site page, we've actually got a content type that you can use to show these staff profiles. Photo galleries and videos. Good many of you are using videos, and that's good. We have a photo gallery that you can use if you've got a series of photos, maybe from an event that's up on there, so you don't actually have to have 15 different photos on one page. You can use the photo gallery content type, and then videos you can embed YouTube, you can embed Vimeo. Those are the only two we've got, but you can embed anything that's up on YouTube or Vimeo to show up on your website. So that's another content type that's available to you. And of course, there's the blog. This takes a lot of effort. If you've got the wherewithal to do it, the commitment to blog, at least once a week, the blog content type is a great way to do it. It's different from a press release. This is an example of what we've got on GeorgiaGov Interactive. We've plugged it several times, but we've got blogs on GeorgiaGov Interactive. And you can actually have this capability to where it's different from the press releases. You can have two different areas on your front page to show blogs and press releases. And as you can see on the right-hand side, you can there's a taxonomy as well. You can narrow things down by topic. So if you wanted just to see the content type blogs, you can click on that and see all of the blogs that way. Web forms, man, a lot of y'all are using web forms, and that is great. I was really happy to see that. I'm going through every single website right now and seeing what people are using, and I see a lot of web forms, and that's great. It's an easy way to gather information. It's an easy way to get information to a person. Of course, right now we don't have the capability to put it into a back-end system to where if you click submit, it'll go ahead and put it into an Oracle database or a SQL database. But a lot of people are using this for Contact Us. If you're wanting to register for a conference, people are using it for that. So I applaud you on your use of this. It's a great tool, and people are using it. So I just encourage you to continue to use that for any kind of, especially Contact Us. You don't want email addresses out there on the web because bots will actually collect those and give you spam. So not a good thing. And then a lot of you all are using FAQs, which is good. There's an FAQ content type. You don't actually have to do a site page and create a lot of links to the FAQs and have the answers to them that way. There's an actual, as part of an index page, you can create FAQs and actually have them linked. You can this one has, oh my goodness, 29 different FAQs. And you can click on one, and it'll take you straight down to that actual answer for that FAQ. But again, a good resource to have if you've got FAQs is just to use the FAQ content tag. Makes sense, right? So, in the past, we've talked a lot. Every time I get up here, it seems like I'm talking about content. And you're probably sick to death of hearing about content. But in the past, we've really gotten into the weeds. We've talked about, how to make your writing clear, understandable. We've talked about, using short sentences, using bullet points. Don't use a lot of PDFs. But what I really want to do today is go really more toward the 50,000-foot view and really look at your content from a purpose standpoint. What is really the purpose of my website? Why does it exist? When I first started working on websites back in 2002, I guess, websites were basically, especially government agency websites, were basically just a brochure. It told what we did, told our services, these are our divisions and offices, this is how we're organized, here's the way to contact us. That was basically it. But now that we've gotten a lot more sophisticated with some of the things we can do, you've really got to look at your user and figure out, why do we exist? We don't exist just because we need a website or because our commissioner wants a website. There's got to be a reason for your users to come to your website. And then you've got to answer the question, does my content reflect that purpose? Does the content that I have on the website really fulfill the things that you're trying to give users? And this is a pretty bold statement, and I'm sure a lot of people would push back on it, but if it doesn't reflect that purpose, why is it there? Get rid of it. If there's not really a reason for you to have that up there, then just get rid of it. I know there's probably some things like board members and a message from the commissioner that the commissioner is definitely saying, I want this up there. So you're definitely going to have some caveats, some things that are going to be up there that you don't want up there, that your users don't really care about. But for the most part, you really need to take a close look at what is going on your website, what users are looking for, and then just simply provide that information for them. Because really, we're just drowning in content. We've got so much content on all of our websites, that users can't really find what they're looking for. And it's become a problem not just for state government agencies, but for Microsoft as well. Microsoft has 15 million pages on their website. If you thought yours was big, forget it. Out of those 15 million pages, 4 million have never even been looked at. Now, if I was the content creator of some of those 4 million pages, I'd be a little bit discouraged and upset. But you've got to look at what Microsoft is doing. Are they really providing value to their customers? Now, some of those 11 million pages may get a lot of hits, and that's really what they need to be focusing on. But 4 million have never even been looked at. That's a pretty amazing stat. And that's a lot of content that content creators and managers need to maintain. Yahoo, everybody remember this? The old Yahoo, back in 2004, trying to be the end-all, be-all to the internet, had 255 links on the homepage. I mean, trying to go through that is pretty amazing. They've got it down to an incredible 93 now. Woo-hoo. But 93 is still probably about, probably 15 or probably 75, too many. And that's part of Yahoo's problem right now, is Yahoo doesn't really know what they are or what they're supposed to be, whether they're supposed to still be a portal, whether they're supposed to be a news aggregator, whether they're supposed to be still the old, we'll try to help you find what you want. They've got an identity crisis. But 93 links, yeah, sure, is much better than 255. But the more links you have, the longer it takes for people to It just gets confusing for the user. So how many here actually manage content? Okay, you can go back and tell your boss this if you have more than 100 pages. The average number of pages one content manager can handle per year is about 100. I mean, that's taking a look at every single piece of content that you have on your website, editing it, making sure that no laws have changed, and if law has changed, getting it to the right person, getting the content updated, and publishing it. There's new content that you may have to publish. There's content that may have to be put down and taken off. And so really, one content manager can handle about 100 pages. And you see this content manager is very happy because she has one. This person does not. GeorgiaGov sites have thousands and thousands of pieces of content. And it's just simply too much, especially if you're the only content manager on your site. There's just simply too much to do. And I am going to be mentioning his name quite a bit. He's my hero, Jerry McGovern. He likens content to a bowl of fruit at a hotel. You go in, you see this beautiful array of apples and oranges, and it smells great. You're able to take one. You go in 6 months later to the same hotel, and there's this huge stench. And you go, what is that? And you look down, and you see the same apples and oranges and bananas that were there 6 months ago. And Jerry McGovern basically says a lot of our content stinks just like that because it's stale. It doesn't get updated. It doesn't really get looked at a lot. And I remember many cases back when, I think it was Sonny Perdue, when Sonny Perdue took over, we suddenly had to scramble and realize, oh my gosh, there's a new governor. We have to change, Roy Barnes and Sonny Perdue everywhere. There's some things that you have to do very quickly, but there's other things that you may find slip by. You may get a new commissioner, and then there are several pages referencing the old commissioner. Those are things that you have to keep up with. And it's simply too much for one person or two people to manage thousands and thousands of content items on a website. One thing that has become quite popular over the past decade is the concept of the long tail. There's actually even a book called The Long Tail that shows, especially when dealing with search items, that a lot of the search items that you see on when you look at your analytics come right down to this part of the long tail, 70%. So, people may be coming to your site. We've got tens and thousands of search queries on GeorgiaGov, and they could be anything from who killed Kennedy to, where are my socks, and there's some really silly ones, seriously, that people search for on GeorgiaGov. And so I think as an agency, we try to put as much content up there so that if somebody is searching for something, they'll find it, because they searched for it once, maybe they'll search for it again. So we try to overload the user with content, hoping that, if they use the search button, the search field, they'll somehow come across that one piece of content that they're looking for. But my friend, Jerry McGovern, turned that sort of on its head and wrote a book called The Stranger's Long Neck, where he didn't really look at the long tail, but looked at the beginning of the chart and said, really what's not important here is not the long tail, but the long neck, the very beginning. What are your top tasks? What's commanding the most attention of your users? The long neck, 5% of your website delivers 25% of your value. So the key is knowing what 5% is actually driving that engagement. And so Jerry McGovern says, look at those top 5 to 10 tasks, and you're going to be hitting quite a bit of what people are looking for. On Georgia.gov, we've got a nice picture of the Capitol. We've got Popular topics, we've got agencies, cities and counties, and I think about 30% of the people who come to Georgia.gov click on child support, which is a pretty telling thing. That's a top task for Georgia.gov, even though it doesn't have anything to do with state government as a whole. People just go there and go, oh, there's child support. I need to check on my child's check. So top tasks is a very important thing. So let's talk a little bit more about the long neck. You need to take a look at what your users' top tasks are. What are they coming to your website for? And really, going back to my slide earlier, does anything else really matter? Again, you may have those board members that you need to put up there. You may have the commissioner's message. You may have a couple of videos that you need to put up. But what are your users coming to your website for? And are you providing that information and services for them? So now for some ugly truth. Some things that I've seen over the years and that we've actually experienced at GeorgiaGov Interactive that we've learned not to use and are encouraging you not to use when you're dealing with content. And these are things that people, when they're looking for top tasks, really don't care about. For instance, no one cares about your welcome message. This is a website for Lebanon Valley Bible Church. I think it's in Pennsylvania. It has a nice flowering cherry tree, a nice script saying welcome. If you didn't get it the first time, it says welcome to our website once again. And then below that, if you didn't get it the second time, there's a welcome message welcoming everyone to the website. Nowhere on the front page is the worship service times. Nowhere is there where they're located. Nowhere is there any information on what their phone number is. But you surely do feel welcome. That's great. So I would encourage you to bypass welcome to our website and get straight down to what people are looking for. I mean, they're coming to your website to find something, not to feel really good and cozy and welcomed by whomever. No one cares about your org chart. This is another one that's kind of iffy because your commissioner may say, I want my org chart up there. So you can use this with discretion and push back as much as you want. But org charts, in my opinion, basically give people a chance to argue with someone higher up. They see who's at the top of the totem pole and they go straight there. If they can't find them, they'll find the next person down. This is from the U.S. Department of Energy, and yes, they have their org chart on there. But really, a lot of them are PDFs that are up there. So there's another PDF that you have that you really may not need. And unless you have a true use case for putting an org chart up there, which I've yet to really find, I would encourage you to maybe think about losing the org chart. No one cares about your mission and vision. This is another one that could be controversial because the commissioner may want it up there. This one is just classic. The world is changing all around us. To continue to thrive as a business over the next 10 years and beyond, we must look ahead. Understanding the trends and forces that will shape our business in the future. Our roadmap starts with our mission, and the mission is to refresh the world, to inspire moments of optimism and happiness, and to create value and make a difference. And who is this from? It's Coke. They make sugar water. I think their mission and vision should be just sell more sugar water. But a lot of times our mission and vision are really internal. You know, you do a lot of navel gazing, you go to Amicalola Falls for a retreat, and you try to figure out exactly what we're all about. And it's true, missions and visions can help you focus what exactly you're all about as an organization. But really it's more of an internal thing. Really what you should be talking about is what we do, who we are. That's basically the same thing, but you can put it in terms that people will understand. What exactly does the Department of Community Health do? This is what we do. I mean, it doesn't really matter what the mission is or the vision is, but just telling people, I know the Department of Community Health has this wonderful page that is called, I think, How Do I Know If I'm in the Right Place? Because you've got the Department of Public Health, you've got the Department of Community Health, you've got DFACS, you've got the Department of Human Services. There are a lot of behavioral health. How do I know that I'm in the right place? You know, it's okay to explain to people exactly what you do and what you don't do, and maybe direct people to the right place. But having something like this, especially, I would definitely recommend against it. Okay, this one we got to do a mea culpa, because when we first started moving everybody to Drupal, image rotators were the big thing. It was a way to put a lot of content in a rather small area of space. And so we made an image rotator, we made several different image rotators, and we encouraged people to actually use them, put some images up there, and now things have changed quite a bit. As Kendra said, adding images to your image rotator will double the size of your page. And really only 1% of people are clicking on those items on your image rotator. So the pendulum has swung. We encourage you to take a look at your image rotators and see if it's something that you really do need, or whether there's another way to put that information up there, maybe through another kind of block. And just, if you want to actually put an image up there, you know, just create one image that really signifies exactly who you are and what you do. I'll point out, Department of Public Safety has actually done a great job with their refresh, which is going live pretty soon. They've got a one-column photo on their homepage. Not even a big 2-column photo like this one, and it has greatly, significantly lowered the page load for their site. So kudos to them for recognizing that and putting the image down just to one column. It's going to make a world of difference. So this is, yeah, actually part of this is on us, but we encourage you to take a really close look at why you have an image rotator, and if there's not really a need, people aren't clicking on it. All of your really important content that is task related is probably going to be below the fold because you've got this giant image rotator. So do a lot of hard thinking. This is really for all of these. You just need to do a lot of hard thinking. No one cares about your divisions and offices. We tend as state government to organize everything by division and office. This is the Securities and Exchange Commission homepage, and they've got everything. I don't know why I would ever want to visit the office of the chief accountant as part of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Somebody may want to out there. I may be mistaken, but there are a lot of websites out there that cater to a bureaucratic, this is how we are organized information architecture. When really you should be looking at how your users organize the information. How do they see it? And this is where we can come in handy with information architecture studies. We can actually do card sorts where people can take all of your content items and actually organize them for you. How would the typical user organize your information? And it's probably not going to be through the Office of Chief Accountant and Office of Chief Operating Officer. They're going to tend to group things by topic or by task. So that's something we can help with, but you know, dividing everything up, unless you're somebody big like DHS, you know, DHS has DFACS, the Division of Aging. You know, those are particular divisions that people recognize and want to go to, and so you know, having a DFACS tab on your menu may actually make sense because it's such a big division and such a recognizable division. So what do they care about? Well, luckily we have a lot of tools that are at our disposal that we can find out what's going on. First of all, checking Google Analytics. Google Analytics has so much information. I'm still learning how to use it. And but one easy thing is just to look at the top 20, top 30 pages on your website. What's getting the most hits? What are people actually looking for? What are they landing on? And remember, I think Nikhil had mentioned that the homepage really isn't as important as it used to be. Google is now a lot of people's homepages. And so if they're typing in child support, they may get the homepage for the Division of Child Support, but they may actually get the app for checking on where your child's check is. They may get an FAQ on child support. So you need to check and see exactly what is getting the most hits. Conversely, go to the bottom of that list and see what's not getting hit. If you've gone through a year's worth of data and some content items have been clicked on 7 times, that's probably a pretty good clue that nobody really cares about that information. And so you'll go to the content owner and you'll tell them that, and they'll say, well, nobody knows where it is. Well, now you can tell them that Google knows where it is, and if people really wanted to look for it, they'd find it. And so looking at that long tail, at what people aren't looking for is really, in this case, just as important as looking at those top tasks. Conducting user interviews, especially if you've got waiting rooms. There are people who are just waiting to get in and talk to somebody. That's a perfect opportunity for you to go in, talk to users, find out what whether they go to the website, what do they go to the website for, what do they wish was on the website that's not on there. Do they have trouble navigating the website? You can actually do a couple of small usability tests. There's a great book called Don't Make Me Think by Steve Krug, which tells you how to do usability testing on just a dime. And we can help with this as well. But going into a DFACS office and sitting them down in front of the DFACS website and saying, find information on foster care. And see if they can find it. It's a quick, easy way to find out whether your users are finding what they're needing. Reviewing call center data. If you have a call center, they've got stats on this, on what the most important topics are, what people are calling about. And these are probably people who maybe have gone to the website before and didn't find what they were wanting, so they picked up the phone and called the call center. If you don't have a call center, go to your receptionist, your admin, whoever is answering the phone, and then you can maybe either get them to start making a tally or at least anecdotally start getting some information on what people are actually calling about. Analyzing search data. Google Analytics has a wealth of information on this. Now, some people are search-centric. So they'll automatically go to a website and they'll go straight to the search bar and start typing in whatever they're looking for. And that's okay. You're finding out what they're interested in. Other people may be browsers and they may be using the search because they're just frustrated and can't find anything. In either case, you're finding out information about your users and what they're looking for. It's a great tool. And you'll find, like I said, we had tens of thousands of searches, but looking at those top 10, top 20 searches will give you a good idea of what people are looking for. And then CrazyEgg Data. How many people here use CrazyEgg? 1, 2, 3 or 4 people. CrazyEgg is a tool that basically gives you a heat map of what people are clicking on your pages. You put a little bit of code on your website and it starts tracking user data. And as you can see, this is Department of Human Services. You can see a heat map of what people are clicking on by the severity of how light everything is on here. So this is pretty dark, I know, but the top right one is very bright, and that's online services. People are wanting to create or to actually do tasks. That's what they're coming here for. The other big one on there is apply for benefits, which is a task. It's a service that people are looking for. I'm a former journalist. I have always been so discouraged that nobody clicks on news. But it's true. I mean, and you can see from here that very few people are clicking on the latest news. We find it somewhat on our blogs for GeorgiaGov. And in our old iteration of GeorgiaGov, we allocated about 30% of our homepage to the latest news. And we aggregated all of your news releases via RSS, and we thought that everybody would want to know what's going on in the state government, and nobody clicked on it. So it breaks my heart, but that's one thing I've learned from looking at a lot of this CrazyEgg data. So let's talk a little bit about content strategy. This is a relatively new term. It's a relatively new field. It's been around probably maybe 5-6 years. And there are a lot of definitions if you go to Google and just type in content strategy. But this was one of the easiest ones that I found was content strategy is getting the right content, the most appropriate content, to the right user at the right time. That's basically all content strategy is. And that's, if you can achieve that, get the right content to the right user at the right time, you've done your job. Now, content strategy can be a lot of things to a lot of people. This diagram kind of blows my mind. A lot of people think content strategy can be everything, and really, everything on your website is content. So, I mean, this gets into tone of voice, style, distribution, social media, tagging, classification terms. These are all part of content, but this is a pretty complicated slide. So really, this is more of a process-oriented diagram that shows exactly what you do with content strategy. First thing is to audit your content. And I've stressed this to a lot of you all, is to create an inventory of your content. What exactly do you have out there? And then try to figure out what you can get rid of. Audit that content. Analyze it, which is part of the audit. Seeing what needs to be updated maybe. Seeing what needs to go. Curating the content. Creating an editorial calendar of exactly when you're supposed to be updating content. I've seen some content that's very outdated out there, from 2002, 2004. Keeping track of exactly when your content was last updated and then going back and revisiting that is a good way of keeping the content fresh. Of course, creating new content. I mean, I can't guarantee, of course, that you'll get your site down to 500 pages and it will always stay at 500 pages. Your commissioner or division director is going to come back and say, the feds want us to do blank, or we really need this up on the website. So there are going to be some cases where you're going to need to create new content. And then governance. You need to have some sort of workflow as to how people actually submit new content and submit changes to content. You may have this already. There's some sophisticated workflows out there already where people actually go in and create content that they can't publish. And they send it to someone who actually reviews it and publishes it. So having some sort of governance in place where you have some accountability and some way for the content to be reviewed so that nothing slips through the cracks. And that's a 50,000-foot view of what content strategy really is and what you should be doing when you're looking at your content. Okay, let's have a confession time. How many people have a wardrobe that looks like this? I'll admit. Sometimes this is what our content looks like on our website. And it didn't get there on purpose. It got there really by accident. I mean, you probably started with a really nice wardrobe, had everything neatly stacked, had everything on hangers, and then time went by, And then there's this yellow shirt down here that probably hasn't been worn since 2004. And some of the content that's on your website may have not been looked at or addressed since 2004. So sometimes our content can get out of control, like our wardrobe. Anyone read this book? Marie Kondo? Yes, I see a couple of hands, that's great. The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. She has created it's been a #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. She's created a way for you to get rid of your junk. And it's a very simple way. I don't know how she wrote an entire book about it, but the basic premise is to take everything. This is regarding clothes, but you can do this with your knickknacks, with your record albums, with anything that's junk in your house. And she can actually get rid of 90% of your clothes. It's that life-changing. She tells you to put everything out on a bed, on your floor, your apartment or house, and ask yourself, do these clothes bring me joy? Does this make me happy? And I'm not saying say that to your content. Does this content bring me joy? I don't know how much of our content really brings us joy. But what she does is, if this content, or if these clothes actually bring you joy, if you actually enjoy wearing them, if you've worn them many times, it's okay to keep it. But there are so many things that you can take a look at and go, nah, I really could part with this. This is something that I really don't wear that much. It's something that I don't know why I bought in the first place. And in the end, you can start putting things in bags. Bags of clothes to donate, bags of clothes to get rid of and just throw away, and then go back into your wardrobe and reorganize. And that's really what I'm saying simply with your content, is try the Marie Kondo approach. There's actually a Norwegian company that will guarantee that they can get rid of 90% of your content. So if you've got some money and want to deal with Norway, they can help you do that. But this is something you can do on your own. We can provide you, if you're on our platform, with a content inventory that shows you all of your content items and puts them in a spreadsheet. And what you do is go through every piece of content, just like Marie Kondo does, and say, do I really need this piece of content? Look at the Google Analytics, see if it's getting hits. Go to your subject matter expert, say, do we really need this? And start making those tough decisions on whether or not you really need that content. And pretty soon, you'll come up with then what's a content audit. You'll have a spreadsheet with an extra column that will basically say, yes, I'm going to keep this content. No, I'm going to get rid of it. I need to modify it because it's still got Sunny Purdue on it. Or I need to add content. There may be some cases where you've overlooked something and you need to add something. Hopefully that's not going to be a lot. But taking that approach will go a long way toward making those decisions as to whether or not to keep your content. So what are the results of this? Why are we doing this? Well, first of all, you'll have a less complicated information architecture. Everybody who uses the platform knows that you can only have 7 tabs up on the horizontal menu. You can't have more than that. By reducing the amount of content that you have, you can actually reduce maybe the number of tabs on there, and if you want another tab, then you've got room to do that. You can reorganize that content because you've got less of it to deal with. What does that mean? That means findability increases. People can find your information a lot more easier. You don't mouse over one tab on the menu and get 7 or 8 different sub-menus, and then click on that and there's 7 or 8 more menus. The less content you have, the easier your information architecture is going to be, and the easier it is for people to find things if they're browsing for stuff. Users can easily find those top 5 tasks if you get rid of the clutter, especially on your home page. What we've been doing with a lot of agencies, with DPS, just most recently, is doing a front page refresh where we really take the layout, of the homepage, look at CrazyEgg Data, look at Google Analytics, and really pattern the front page and what's on it based on the top tasks. And it makes a world of difference to have those most used items up there on the front page. And of course, going back to the happy content manager, you'll have fewer items to deal with. More time that you'll spend editing, increasing your search engine optimization, putting in those keywords that you need for Google to find your information. Things that you can really start doing that you really wish you had time to do. I know there's a lot as content managers that we wish we had time to do, but we just simply have too much to do. And by having fewer pieces of content out there, you can start concentrating on those things. What can we do for you? As I mentioned, we can do these homepage refreshes where we take the content that you currently have, we run CrazyEgg Data on it, we see what's being clicked on, what's not being clicked on, and that gives us a good idea of what needs to stay and what needs to go. We take a look at Google Analytics, we take a look at call center data, and we determine what are the most important topics that need to be on the homepage. We can get rid of those image rotators for you. But we can basically just pattern your homepage to something that users will actually want to visit and get things done. We can do, as I said, a content inventory for you. We can help interpret Google Analytics for you. If you don't want to actually go through all that, we can do an analysis of that, tell you what the top pages are, what the least number of pages looked at are. We can give you a lot more data on bounce rate, and there's just a wealth of data out there that we can put in a report for you. And then we can actually help create a content strategy for you. We've got content strategists on hand that can help with this. So if you're interested in developing a content strategy, see one of us and we can help set you up with that. I think this is the final slide. What is the to-do list for you? What's the take-home for you? As I mentioned first, take advantage of our content types. Not everything has to be a site page. If you've got those events that are out there, use the event content type. If you've got FAQs, use the FAQ content type. Take a look at the drop-down menu on the back end of Drupal and see what options you have. And if you're unsure about exactly what certain content item does, just slip a support ticket, and we can help you navigate through that. Perform a content audit. That's going back to getting the content inventory, determining what stays and what goes. And then getting rid of the things no one cares about. Making those tough decisions. It's a tough decision, and some egos will get hurt because they created the content. But you've got the data and you've got the analytics to back it up and say, look, this is what we found. That even though it was a great content item, it was a great piece of content, nobody was looking at it. And then going back again to the bullet number 1, just determining what content type you need to be using at all times, and making sure that you're using what's supposed to be used at a certain time. Oh yes, last one thing that I wanted to plug: on June 28th, 1:30 p.m. we have a webinar on taxonomy. I mentioned taxonomy a couple times when I was talking about blogs and talking about documents. That's the way that you can whittle down to certain aspects of a document using taxonomy. So you can learn how to use to organize the content into subsections, and these are used for documents. You can also use them for press releases, locations, blogs. Go to our website at interactive.georgia.gov and you can get the information on exactly how to get into the webinar. Click on the events tab and all the information will be there. And that's it. Thank you very much.